And look who's back with us for a return visit on the Jim Masters Show Live, entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series. The iconic actor from television, film, and so much more. The wonderful Burt Ward is back in the house, and we're so honored to have you back, my friend.
Well, hello, citizen.
I asked him, what has he been doing lately since we chatted last? Because we love when the guests return. And he's been fending off villains and all kinds of different things. And I said, you know, we might need you in Washington, D.C. And he was like, no, I don't even think Robin can help with that.
Yeah, too much corruption, even for the crime-fighting duo.
Right. How have you been since we chatted last, my friend? Some wonderful things that you guys are doing. You know, I thought people say to me, Jim, do you ever sleep? You know, because I'm always working in the industry, TV, radio, and all.
Right.
You and Tracy, your lovely Tracy, are constantly on the go. How have you been, and what have you up to lately, my friend?
Well, you know, geez, after the TV series, you know, we've done so much stuff. There was a whole bunch of movies I did, and then we've got involved with charity and rescuing animals, and we've rescued more than 15,500 dogs, every one of which would have been dead if I hadn't brought them, you know, rescued them and found a safe, loving home. And then we found out that these giant breeds, the ones that they really need the most rescue, because, you know, not everybody can take a big dog, you know. And so, but because we found out that they had lived very short lives, and these big, they call them gentle giants, we decided that, oh, well, we're going to rescue them, and we're going to find a way to help them live longer. So we created a special feeding care program, and we've created a special food called Gentle Giants. And I'm incredibly thrilled to tell you that we have dogs now living up to and over 30 years. Unheard of. We just finished videotaping one of our customers who's he got his dog at 6 weeks of age from a pound, and that was and we calculated the dog's age when he got at 6 weeks of age to have been born on January 3rd of 1994. So January 3rd of this year, the dog turned 30. Now it's 5 months later, so the dog is almost 30 and a half, and we went and videotaped a birthday party and happy 30th birthday and stuff like that. But the thing is, people say, well, how can this be? I mean, nobody has dogs that live that long. And not every dog lives that long, but just about every dog that eats our food lives about twice their normal lifespan. And we don't take any money from this, Jim. Never took a penny, never will. This is what we consider our charity. But our food is different than all the other foods. It doesn't have any of the chemicals. It doesn't have the pesticides, insecticides. It's called non-GMO ingredients, you know, which now, I don't know if you know this, but even in the United States, our own human food, more than 90% has been genetically modified. You know, so when a farmer grows his plant, whatever he's growing, you know, bugs and things will attack it. And in the past, they would spray it with a pesticide, and it would kill the plant often as much as it would kill the pests. So there was a big company that created Roundup, you know, the one that you've heard all that stuff about. And they came out with Roundup Ready crops, and they took the DNA in just about everything we as humans eat, and they mixed their pesticide into it. So when a farmer now grows plants, it has that actual pesticide in it. It's called glyphosate. That's the actual cancer-causing thing. And it kills the bugs, but it doesn't kill the plant. So the farmer produces his crop, but the plant has absorbed the pesticide, and then you turn around and make food out of it. I mean, and then you feed the animals that eat the food with the pesticides, and your dog or your cat ultimately comes down with cancer because of that. And we've had less than a dozen dogs have cancer in 30 years with more than 15,500 dogs. So, I mean, that's one thing that we do all the time. And we're so thrilled because we're all over the United States, and, you know, we're in Petco and Target and almost every grocery chain. But the other thing is, now we're in Canada, we're in Walmart in Canada, and we're going worldwide with this, and it's our charity. So that's one thing that we're very thrilled about. And I must tell you, you know, when we did this, we never sought to get any accolades or awards, but recently on April 28th, I got I got 3 amazing awards. One of them was the President's Volunteer Service Award for having rescued 15,500 dogs in 30 years.
Congratulations.
And even though I got the award, I consider Tracy, my wife, if not more deserving of the award than me. And the second award I got from the president was the President's Lifetime Achievement Award. But that was for a different reason. That is for creating a special way to feed and care for dogs. And we call it our Gentle Giants Special Feeding and Care Program. And our special food, the Gentle Giants dog food, and we also have Gentle Giants cat food, of which now we have these animals living almost twice their normal lifespan. Well, in fact, consistently, but some of them up to 30 years. One of them, I mentioned, is now 30 years and 5 months old. So we're thrilled about that, and we're thrilled that people who love their dogs and love their cats now can have them for years longer. You know, and the only complaint I get, Jim, I got to tell you, funny, the only complaint I get is sometimes, very rarely, people will say, you know, you and your wife, you do so much for dogs and cats. Why don't you do more for humans? I'll say, well, no, wait a minute here. If I help you keep your dog or your cat an extra 5 or 10 years longer, don't you think I've done something for you?
Yes.
And they go, well, yeah, I guess when you put it that way. So
absolutely,
this is out of love, and we take nothing for it. So here I got those awards, and then the third award I got was from the United Nations. I mean, you know, New York, the big United Nations, they flew someone out here and gave both Tracy and I individually their humanitarian award. So, I mean, I never expected to get any awards for anything. We did this because we love animals, and I've got 50 in my house, so obviously I must love them, right? I tell everybody, Jim, I've gone to the dogs, literally.
I was going to say 50, and listen to how quiet it is. Some people have one, and it's noisy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if people want to see it, they can go to our website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com. And the first thing they'll see is a full screen video of my wife, Tracy, and I in bed with 50 of them. Now, not all of them can get on the bed, probably 10 or 15 at any given time, but they're all around the bed. And when people first see this before they play the video, they'll look at it and say, oh, he must have photoshopped those dogs into that.
There's
video.
No way.
There's just too many. And then they say, well, what's that play button? And they play the button. All of a sudden, oh my God, they're all moving. They're on the bed. They're jumping. They're climbing. They're wrestling with each other. You know, and then they play, oh, how could this be? You know, these people are certifiable. Anyway, so that's been a big part of our life. But also, because we want to do so much for mankind, we really do want to leave this planet a much better off than we found it. We now have built our own studio on our property. We have an animation studio, a recording studio, and now we're building a sound stage. And we're going to make our own movies that are great, fun, lots of excitement, but wholesome with a positive message. And this is something, every day we do something and have fun, Jim, you know?
Yes.
I mean, although I will tell people the first 100 years are the hardest, Jim. After that is pretty smooth sailing.
Then it's smooth sailing. Then you just coast the rest. And, you know, you've been doing this for a long time, inspiring, entertaining, bringing us together, of course, notably as that amazing character on the left. Well, both are characters in a fabulous way. Of course, our special guest, Burt Ward, joining us here. Phenomenal actor, film and television icon, animal welfare activist, businessman. He played Dick Grayson's Robin, the sidekick of Batman, played by Adam West in the television series Batman from 1966, 68. The theatrical feature film, the Saturday morning animated series, The New Adventures of Batman in 77, the 2-episode pilot Legends of the Superheroes in 79, with the animated reunion films Batman, Return of the Caped Crusaders in 2016, Batman vs. Two-Face, 2017, the live-action television event Crisis on the Infinite Earths in 2019, and you, believe it or not, you grew up loving Superman and Superboy, and you enjoyed the adventures of Superman early on, right, Burt?
Yeah, you know, it's where I live, there was no Batman comic books. Okay, for whatever reason, I didn't know. I had never heard of Batman before, but I always wanted to be a superhero, you know. And this is before superheroes were fashionable. I mean, this was before there were any superhero movies, and but it's, you know, I really believe, Jim, that thoughts are things. You know, if you really think about stuff hard enough, and in my case, I was kind of a loner kid growing up. I don't know. I found myself a lot of time by myself. And I used to come home from school every day, in elementary school and even in high school. And I just would go outside, and we had a big wall, and I had a ball, and I'd kick this ball against the wall, and I'd think about all these daring, you know, adventures, and run and chase this ball and kick it and just go over and over. But I wanted so much to be a superhero. And it didn't start at that age. It actually started at age 3, when my mother had took a photo of me wanting to be Superboy with a bath towel wrapped around my neck, held together with a clothespin, riding my tricycle, you know. And then I guess just, you know, growing up and being by yourself a lot and having time to just think about things. So then when as I, you know, got into college at UCLA, and I wanted to be an actor. And I was also studying professionally with a top Hollywood coach, that I was working for my father on the weekend selling real estate. And I was what they call sitting on a house, where you sit there all day on a weekend and people come by and you hand them brochures. But in my case, this very famous producer came in. And I said, hi, how are you? And what do you do? Oh, I produce movies. I really this and that. And I don't know how I got the bravery to ask him, but could I do a scene for you? And he said, what? I said, yeah, could I do a scene for you? I'd like you to tell me if you think I'm any good. And he said, okay. And he said, he watched it. He said, yeah, you know, that's really good. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you to an agent. And because if you don't have an agent, it's very hard to get a chance, because only the agents have these sheets and know what the casting directors want and all that stuff. So I went to see an agent. The agent said to me, I can't get work for the actors I've got. I'd never take anybody new. And the only reason I'm going to take you is because of Saul David, this producer. And don't expect to work for a year. And if you get a part, you might have one line. You know, not very encouraging.
Yeah, I was going to say, not quite building you up, right?
Well, I kind of left there, you know, boy, did I was brought down a few notches. But it was a couple weeks later that I got a call from a secretary in his office. And he said, oh, 20th Century Fox is seeing young guys, and we want you to go over there tomorrow at 20th Century Fox. Oh, God, that's great. Well, tell me about it. Well, we don't know anything about it. We just, you know, we only know that they're seeing a bunch of young guys over there, and there's going to be a ton of them. So you wait your turn, and, you know, we got you a drive-on pass at 4:30, and I mean, all this stuff. So I went over there the next day, and I went in. I saw, geez, you know, there's a bunch of young guys, and every bit as good at looking, if not better than me. And, you know, they go in and out and in and out and in and out. And this, Burt? And I said, yes. And go on in. So I just walked in there, and the casting director, he looked at me, asked me a couple of questions. He said, would you like to meet the executive producer? Well, Jim, I had never been on an interview, so I didn't know that was a special thing to do. I mean, it sounds special, but maybe everybody gets to do it. Well, they don't, but I didn't know that. So I said, well, sure. Why not? Right. So he said, all right, I'm going to send you over to this other bungalow. And because they had all these little bungalows that they worked out, little houses kind of thing. And so I went over there, and, now I'm the only one there other than the secretary. And she said, oh, Mr. Dozier will see you now. So again, not having ever gone on an interview, not knowing what to expect, I went in, and I just came up to the producer and I said, hello, sir. And I shook his hand, and he was like, oh my God, he was so taken aback, because you have to understand, most actors, as I found out later, they've been turned down, Jim, so many times.
Yeah.
The little ego they have left, they're like, cowering in the corner type of thing. And here I come in like gangbusters, figured I want to say hello and everything. So he looks at me after he kind of got his composure there for a moment. And he said, well, you're kind of big for the part. And I said, oh, but sir, I promise you, I won't grow anymore. And he laughed like, I mean, how are you going to stop from growing? So then he said, would you like to do a screen test? I said, sure, why not? You know, I mean, doesn't everybody get to do a screen test? No, but I didn't know that. I mean, and the reason they don't get to do it is because, one, you've got to be really considered. And secondly, you've got a whole crew filming, and you're talking about $30,000 or $40,000 to test somebody, right? So they're not like doling these out, but I had no idea about it. And I still had no idea what it was. He said, all right, we'll get in touch with you. And then a couple of weeks later, these same agents called and said, oh, you got to go over to 20th Century Fox, and they're going to do this screen test. And I said, oh, great. So I went over there, and they said, so are you athletic? I said, yeah, actually, I'm a brown belt in karate, and you know, I know some judo and stuff like that. They said, oh, well, let's see some stuff. So, and it's, by the way, it's on the internet, my screen test. And so I had a friend go with me, and we did some throws and falls and stuff like that. And then I broke a board with my hand, which you have to understand, in 1965, the martial arts of karate only came to the United States in 1959. So 99% of America didn't know about it, and certainly never seen anything like that. So I did that. And then they said, okay, well, we have a gentleman here that we want you to read the lines with. I said, okay. And he said, we're going to introduce him to you. And if you might want to sit down next to him and read these lines we're going to give you. And I said, okay. And they handed me a sheet of paper. On the sheet of paper, it just had these little short paragraphs with a person's name at the top. There was Bruce, not Bruce Wayne, by the way. And there was Dick, not Dick. You know what I'm saying? Just Bruce and Dick, you know? And so I sat down next to this actor. I said, hi, I'm Burt Ward. And he said, I'm Adam West. And before we started running the lines, he just commented about something. And I don't know, I started to laugh. And we started talking, nothing about rehearsing the thing. We just started talking. And within 5 minutes, the two of us were laughing. And we never stopped laughing for 55 years. Wow. And so then we had only about 2 minutes to rehearse the lines, and we got up and we did these lines, and they said, oh, that's great. And I said, well, thank you very much. And I started to leave. They said, whoa, we're not done with you yet. Oh, okay. Well, what do you want me to do? Well, we want you to walk all the way over to the other side of this soundstage. Jim, it's like walking 3 long blocks. I mean, that's a gigantic thing. And he says, we've got a trailer over there with 2 wardrobe men who are going to help you get dressed. And I said, oh, well, you know, with no disrespect, but I'm perfectly capable of dressing myself. Well, no, you don't understand. You just go over there. They'll show you, right? So I go over there. I go in the trailer. Sure enough, there's 2 guys. And then they have this like big, long, I don't know, it's like a couch without a back, just gigantic thing. And there's all this stuff on there. And I looked down, I said, am I going to put some of this on? They said, no, actually, you're going to put all of it on. I go, what? And they got me into this most uncomfortable, Jim, I've never in my life been so uncomfortable. Everything itched or pulled or pinched. And I mean, just like, for example, my mask, my eyelashes kept touching the openings in the mask. And, you know, anything that touches your eyelashes, I mean, it can mess you up. Anyway, so I finally got into this contraption. I'm telling you, I was like wobbling in it, right? So I get out of this thing, and they got to walk all this 3 miles back to where they got it set up to film. And I go there, and there's this same guy that I'd sat to earlier, Adam West, and he's in this big, long cape and cowl. Now, remember, I had never heard of Batman, never seen a Batman comic book, certainly didn't look like Superman, and I don't know how I got it in my head. I thought, well, maybe this is some Shakespearean period piece or something. But no.
Right, yes.
I didn't know. And anyway, we did these lines. Again, nobody said anything about Batman or Robin. I never heard those words.
Right.
I did the lines and said, well, thank you. And I left. And I guess it was 6 weeks before I really heard much. But over the next 6 weeks, I'd get a call maybe once a week from the studio, and they'd say things like, what's your shoe size? Oh, okay. And give them my shoe size, 7.5. And then they say, Another time they called and said, what's your hat size? Well, I don't wear a hat. Well, go get your head measured. Well, where do I go to get my head measured? I don't, I didn't know these things, right? And anyway, and I'm wondering, why are they asking me these questions? I haven't even heard if I got the role or not,
So where do you get your head measured? At a shrink?
You go to a tailor.
You go to the tailor, exactly.
But I didn't know that. Anyway, after 6 weeks, I get a call from these agents, and they say, well, I tell you what, come on in. We're going to sign contracts with you. And I said, wow, now I'm going to formally be represented. I can say that I have my own Hollywood agent, right? Wow. So I drive over there, and I go in, and the secretary says, oh, here, we got to come in this room here and sit down. And I sat down, and they said, here's your contracts to sign. And, I thought, well, this is an agency contract. Why is it 1.5 inches thick? Didn't seem that like you would have that thick of an agency contract, would you?
No.
So I started to look at it. First, I really wasn't, and I'm looking like, and this is all this stuff with all this stuff, and this and first episodes and second season, and I said, wait a minute, and I went back to the front, and it said 20th Century Fox Studios on it. So I got up and I went and opened the door. I said, excuse me, I have the wrong paperwork here. I'm supposed to be signing my agency contracts. I'm not supposed to be signing this. And the lady came over and said, oh yeah, that's what you're supposed to be signing. I said, well, wait a minute. I haven't signed my agency contract. You already got this role. I said, I did. And it was so funny because a few days later, I went to the studio. And the studio thought the agents told me I had the part. And the agents thought the studio told me the part. And for 2 whole weeks, I had the part and had no idea because nobody called me.
Wow.
Isn't that pretty crazy?
That's incredible, huh?
Yeah.
And you took that part and you ran with it, truly. I mean, some of the things that you did and you were asked to do.
They had a policy
climb
on
walls,
Batman.
jgo over this, do this.
But more than that, Jim.
You should be in Cirque du Soleil right now.
Yeah, I didn't go to Cirque du Soleil. I went to the hospital. Because they had some very dangerous stunts, and they had a policy on Batman, and that policy was, if there's anything ever really dangerous, always use Burt. Always use Burt. And it was I'll give you an example. The first day of filming, the first shot, Bronson Canyon in Hollywood Hills, the famous Batmobile coming out of the Batcave. And they said, Burt, and I'm dressed and I got makeup on, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning, right? And in his god-awful outfit. And they said, go over there and go into that cave and get in the Batmobile. The Batmobile's in this cave. I said, oh, okay, all right. I mean, I thought they were telling me the truth. So sure enough, I go in there. I can't see a thing. I'm feeling around. Oh, that must be the Batmobile. So I get in the Batmobile, and you know how you can sense somebody else is there? I looked over. I said, Adam? He says, no, my name's Hubie. I said, oh, well, where's Adam? He says, well, he's on the set. I said, oh, well, why isn't he here? He says, because this is a very dangerous shot, and the studio doesn't want to take a chance of Adam West getting hurt. I said, oh, well, that's a good thing, And then I'm sitting there for a minute, say, well, is this really dangerous? Oh, absolutely. Well, why is it dangerous? We got to come out at 55 miles an hour. We got to come straight at the camera. At the last 20 feet, I've got to skid the rear wheels around and go in the direction they have towards the city of Gotham City. I said, oh, wow. And then I sat there for a few minutes longer, and I said, well, wait a minute. If this is dangerous, I can't understand why I don't have a stuntman. He said, oh, you got a stuntman. I said, well, that's good news. And I thought a minute more, said, well, wait a minute. Where is he? Oh, he says, the last time I saw him, he was having coffee with Adam West. So here I now hear him say, roll it up, get ready to film. You know what I mean? You hear the thing going off, the buzzer, everybody be quiet. And all of a sudden I go, wait, whoa, there's a terrible mistake here. And the second unit director says, Burt, what's going on? I said, this guy's a stuntman. He said, we know that. I said, yeah, but he tells me this is a very dangerous stunt. He says, yes, we know that. And he tells me, but I have a stuntman who's having coffee with Adam West. He says, yes, we know that. Well, why is he not here, not me? We can't use him. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Why can't you use him? He doesn't look like you. Oh, He doesn't look like me. Well, wait a minute. If he didn't look like me, why did you hire him? Couldn't find anybody else. So you got to do it. I said, oh, okay. You know, weekly now I don't have anything else. So now there's no out. There's no getting out of this thing. Okay. And the stuntman says, hold on. Okay. Now I go reach for the door handle, but there's no door handle. Okay. I reach to think that there's like, you know, the thing you put your arm on the door. There's none of that because they had to have room for lights. So now what am I going to hold on to? You can't reach to hold the door because it's curved on the outside. The only thing that is in front of me is this paper thin, 1/4 of an inch flexible plastic windshield. I mean, you know, so I'm holding on this windshield. Boom, we come out at 55 miles an hour, straight at the camera. Stuntman is unbelievable, fantastic. And he makes his turn. And, you know, the centrifugal force, when you make a sharp turn and you spin the back of the Batmobile around, accidentally, my door flew open. That was not supposed to happen. And when it flew open, it threw me towards the open door. And as I fell out or started to fall out, my arm went behind me. And somehow I wrapped my little finger around this gear shift. And it kept me from falling out. But it just pulled my finger right out of joint, which is, I don't know if you've ever had that. You don't want to have that. It's very painful. But the door knocked the cameraman off the camera truck and knocked one of those giant arc lamps. They didn't have cool lights like they have now. They had these giant arc lamps, and it fell over. If it hit somebody, it would have killed them instantly.
Oh, I wonder if maybe
dust all over the spot. And they run over to me. Burt, are you okay? I said, well, yeah, but my hand's killing me. They, oh my gosh, through my glove, it was twice the size. They said, Burt, we got to get you to the doctor right away. I said, okay. And I get up.
Oh,
they help me up. Okay, where's the car? Oh, we can't go now, Burt. Well, what do you mean? We didn't get the shot. Well, but my finger. We got to get the shot. It's $30,000 every 10 minutes. We got to get the shot. That was 7:30 in the morning. Finally, at noon, they took me. Finally, at noon. And I had to do it 4 more times, that shot, before they got it. That was day one. Do you think 4 days going to the hospital every single day with 2nd-degree burns, broken nose, gas inhalation? I didn't think I was going to survive the first week.
And this is a guy that in high school excelled at football, track, wrestling, and a practitioner of taekwondo. None of that.
It had nothing to do with this. This is, and you know, I kept seeing the same doctor at the emergency hospital. And he said, you know, he said, either you're accident prone or maybe you should look for a different kind of work. Because every day I'm seeing the same guy with a different ailment, you know? But I'll tell you something, the studio, let me tell you something, never underestimate that studio. They figured out how dangerous my stuff was. So what did they do? They took out this giant multi-million-dollar life insurance policy, Jim, on me. And by the end of the 3rd season, I could swear they were trying to collect on it.
Yeah, I don't doubt. It sounds like it with some of the incredible things that, you know, you did and you were a part of. There's a great shot of you guys.
Yeah, that's Tracy and me. But that's the day that I got my star on Hollywood Boulevard. That was January 9th, 2020. What a great honor that was. And that was
incredible.
Yeah, it was just wonderful. I had such a great time. You know, I honestly, my whole life, for the most part, other than being in the hospital. And by the way, I had never been in my entire life in an emergency hospital. So it wasn't exactly like I was accident prone. All right. But other than that, for the most part, I had a great time on Batman. I mean, it's every kid of all ages fantasy. I mean, here you are riding in the Batmobile, okay, which amazing vehicle. But they say it is by far the most famous car in history, the Batmobile. And when they sold the original one, it was like sold for $4.6 million. And then climbing these walls, you know, and fighting the villains. Oh, I love the fight scenes, being a martial artist. I mean, that was like the greatest thing. And so for me, I had a great, and then I have on top of that, my best buddy, Adam, and I were like best friends. And honestly, I believe one of the reasons our show was so successful was this chemistry he and I had together. I mean, we just were like good friends. I mean, even on weekends, sometimes we'd go out, you know, I mean, on weekends and play tennis. And, you know, we'd be playing tennis and you see people come into these public courts and then all of a sudden they start looking at Adam. Then they look at me. Now, obviously, we're not in costume, but it really didn't matter. And they go, "Oh, my God, it's Batman and Robin playing tennis."
I could only imagine. You know what's great about what you do, and there's a few folks who are doing that. I would say Barbara Eden, Jeannie, is very good at doing it too. She knows that people love that series and that they see her as Jeannie and they love the bottle and they have all these questions. You're so great with embracing the fact that Robin is one of the key things that you're associated with. You've done a lot of other things in your life, masterful things, but that this character that was created during that very special time in everybody's lives and that still transcends the decades today. Yeah. People love it. People love when they see the series, which runs, you know, constantly all the time around the world. The fact that you've embraced the character and you understand that people, you know, you're Burt Ward, but they see you as Robin too. And some people run away from that, but you've embraced it. And
you know something else? One thing that Adam and I did, and I think it was a great thing to do, is that years after portraying the role, we made appearances all around the country. I mean, literally, I went to about 300 cities a year. That's a lot in 365 days. 300 cities a year for 25 years. Okay. And let me tell you something. We would have people come up and say, "Oh, great to meet you. Could you take off your mask?" And not once ever did we act like an actor. When we're in costume, we're in character. Don't take off the mask. Everything is, and you know, you can only say so much when you're totally in character, you know, Gotham City and stuff like that, because they would ask, you know, personal human questions, but we protected the characters for children. We never, ever in any way degraded that. And I was very proud of that, you know.
What was it like working with Adam? Like you said, you guys were kind of like brothers and friends and gone way too soon. A phenomenal veteran actor with his suave and class.
Yeah. Can I tell you something? I tell you about, to me, great comic duos. Okay. To have a great comic duo, in my opinion, you have to have great contrast. You know what I mean? Like if you think about it, Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, Ed McMahon and Johnny Carson. I mean, all the great comic, you know, people in duos always had great contrast. And Adam and I were no exception, except we both really were the people that we are. In other words, I'm a highly energetic person. Adam, on the other hand, was very suave, very dignified. I mean, he used to think of himself like, Charlton Heston, who played Moses, receiving the 10 Commandments, or like Winston Churchill. I mean, let me tell you, he was really, in fact, he told me one time, "Bert, you know, there's the 3 B's. I said, "Well, what are the 3 B's? Bond, Beatles, and Batman." I go, okay, so. And for me,
yes, it's kind of right in a way, huh? When you think about it,
completely right. And they were all at the same time very popular. And for me, I'm highly energetic, and so it was a great contrast because he would talk very slowly. I couldn't figure out at first because he thought very quick. He was so quick on his feet. But why would he talk slowly? And then I finally figured it out, that there's only 30 minutes in a 30-minute television show. And if he talked really slowly, the camera would be on him longer. and so as a result,
I think that is a great idea.
Right, exactly. And then, but let me tell you, he wasn't satisfied with those slow words. He would cut in on my lines, and I would have a line like, "You're right, Batman," you know, just like that. And I would say, "You're right. Yes, Robin." He'd chop half of my line off, right? And they cut Adam. Burt has to say the whole line.
He's going to say the whole line.
It says in the script, "You're right, Batman." It's not "You're right, yes, Robin." It's "You're right, Batman." And then he did this other thing. And you know something? He was so playful with this, okay? I mean, very mischievous person, okay? So we have a 2-shot. That's where the camera is sort of like on the both of you, and you're like sort of facing each other, kind of, 3/4 facing each other. And what he would do in the course of our dialogue, he would act like he's thinking, and he would leave his position and walk directly to the camera, filling his entire face. You couldn't even see his whole head. All you could see is mouth in the camera, right? And they say, cut, Adam. Stay on your mark, Adam. This is not a single on your mouth. This is a 2-shot with Batman and Robin in the scene together, okay? And so then then I caught on to what he was doing, okay? So then when he'd start to walk away, I would leave my position, run under his cape, and come up in front of him. And, "Oh, hey, Burt, that's terrible. You're not supposed to do that. This is my close-up." Adam, no, it's not your close-up. This is the 2-shot with you and Burt together. And you know something, but I loved him. He had the greatest humor. You could put the two of us together, and we would start talking about any subject. Within 2 or 3 minutes, we're laughing. And it's because Adam had this very suggestive nature. His comedy was real comedy, not like, you have these comedians that get up on stage and say a bunch of foul words. Adam didn't have to do that. Adam had these very, very suggestive statements that he would make to people. And oh my gosh, I mean, an
episode of Match Game
coming out of my mask.
Yep.
We had an art autograph session one time where some very beautiful young ladies came up, and he said, and he's in his cowl, and I'm sitting next to him as Robin, and he says to this young lady, he says, I have an itch in my cowl. Could you scratch my ear? And it's like, well, so she kind of put her hand up and scratched his cowl's ear, and then he said, "Oh, I feel wonderful now." He says, "Looking at you," he said, "I'm beginning to feel strange stirrings in my utility belt." Oh my gosh. Yeah. And these are such weird. And I would just break out laughing. And this is Adam. This is the way he was. He was the funniest, most fun person you could, that's why the two of us got along so well.
What are some things you learned from him?
Instant fun with each other.
What did you learn from working with Adam?
Well, I learned how to handle the crew, and I learned how to handle politically. There's a whole political thing, when you're an actor, right? I mean, you have to act a certain way when the press people bring on, interviewers from newspapers and things like that, and it's so funny because a lot of the crew looked at me like, who is this young kid come in and think he can co-star in this series, And I liked everybody, but not everybody liked me because of that, Like I was kind of interfering. So
and you were a good-looking guy too, coming in,
Well, and so Adam, for example, he could get in the Batmobile and crack it against the wall of the set, or he could do and never get in trouble. Me, I had bumped one little thing and I get yelled at, and oh my gosh, it was like the end of the world. So I had to kind of like learn my place. You know what I mean? And but and eventually the crew they ended up liking me because they saw that I really wasn't acting greater or anything than anybody. I was having a fun time. When I said my lines, Jim, I was doing the same thing that I had done for years in my backyard on that asphalt cork thing, kicking that ball against the wall.
You were preparing.
Playing out that role. I took it seriously. And let me give you one example. On our first episode on Batman, there's a scene where Batman and Robin drive up to this museum, okay? And this is the famous Riddler scene with Frank Gorshin, where we think he's going to hold up this jewelry store, okay? And anyway, the Batmobile pulls up, and it's facing the wrong direction. It just kind of pulls up, and the director, Robert Butler, incredible director. He directed the pilot as well. He said, Burt, okay, you guys pull up, get out of the car, and then you're going to walk over towards this warehouse. Okay, so we pull up, and again, we're not facing the warehouse. We're facing the opposite way. So instead of opening the door, I was just motivated to stand up in the seat, stand up on the door, walk to the back on the fin, very thin fin, and jump off, right? I did that, and they said, cut, what are you doing, Burt? You're supposed to come out the door. I said, well, I just did what I thought was right. And then the director says, well, no, wait a minute here. That was actually amazing. Any of us would ever thought of that. Okay, go get the plywood, set up a dolly. We're going to track this shot. And they did that shot just, you know what I mean? Well, unbeknownst to me, and here I'm walking on this 30 paint coat Batmobile worth hundreds of thousands of dollars that George Barris and two of his guys who, between every shot polished it and, kept it sparkling clean, were having a near heart attack watching me walk in my bat boots, but they had rubber on the bottom, but on this delicate fiberglass fin of the car, which, you could have ruined it easy. Okay. And they were, but then the producers saw they were going to come up and really, let me have it. And they stopped and they said, no, you stay away from my actor. You stay away. Oh, but they're burning my Batmobile. You stay away from my actor. Anyway, as I found out later. But I just did it because I did what I thought was right. And I lived in that moment. When that camera went on, I forgot. I didn't care who I was or anything. I was Robin. And I am telling you, I'm going to fight those villains. And I love the fight scene, Did you know that did you know that I have a piece of trivia for it? Did you know that piece of trivia is I lived in the same complex as Bruce Lee, and I knew Bruce Lee, and we sparred together. Okay, okay. This is privately, and a piece of trivia for your viewers is that, of course, Bruce Lee became by far the most famous martial artist in cinema. I don't think anybody will ever reach the level that he reached. In any event, the piece of trivia is that his first fight scene that he filmed on camera of his career was fighting me on Batman, because he was cast as Kato and with the Green Hornet. And there was an episode, and that was the same executive producer. So you got to understand, a very savvy executive producer. He said, here, I've got the #1 show in the world. And we were actually twice a week, #1 and #2 show in the world. Okay. What better way to introduce his fall premiere of the Green Hornet than to have an episode that the Green Hornet and Kato met Batman and Robin. And neither of us, neither Batman and Robin nor the Green Hornet and Kato, knew that the other duo were good guys. We both thought that they were bad guys, and they thought we were bad guys. Okay? So it was during the scene that we had where we were both thinking we were getting other bad guys that we ran into each other and had this big fight on the set, or, in the scene. And it was really cool. And I used to go to dinner with Bruce, and this is when Linda, his wife, and Brandon, his son, was like 6 months of age. We'd go down to Chinatown, and we lived in West LA, and have dinner together. And of course, he was brought up in Hong Kong, so he knew all this authentic Chinese food to order that wasn't even on the menu. But a really nice guy. I mean, he was a cocky guy, but because he really was as good as you can imagine him. He's just incredible and so mentally sharp, and just you appreciate when somebody has a real intellect. I learned a lot from him.
That's incredible. Did your father have any influence too, with your father being the owner of a traveling ice show called Rhapsody on Ice?
Yes.
Your father, of course, Burt, as well. Did having access to that and entertainment early on also tickle your fancy too?
Oh,
seeing your
yeah.
dad
Let me
do
tell
that?
you something. My father believed in an early work ethic. And at 2 years of age, I was, I guess it was put out. I was the world's youngest professional ice skater. I was in my father's traveling ice show, which, by the way, was the predecessor to Ice Capades. And in the show, and believe it or not, I have a memory of one thing that happened in the show. I mean, and it was 2 years of age. Okay, I had these skates that were 6 inches long. Okay, and that's including the blade. I mean, I was like a little tiny guy. And anyway, so he had some of the best skaters in the world at the time. So they would announce, you know, here's the world's youngest professional ice skater, and they'd have 2 skaters, you know, hold my hand, and, you know, they skate around the rink one time, and, you know, they're holding my hand. So people kind of, you know, a little clap. It wasn't that great. And then they would let me go, and I would skate by myself, and people were tearing the seats up. They couldn't believe, this is impossible. There's no way this little kid, and I talk about little, I mean, I'm little kid, okay, skating all around the rink. And I remember those bright lights. And I remember this thunderous people yelling and screaming, and I couldn't see anybody because the bright lights were on, you know, facing my eyes. But it was a great thing. And I grew up, and you know, my whole life I've tried to be an achiever, do the best thing I can with everything I do. And then luckily in my life I met Tracy, who, I mean, she can out-achieve me. I mean, I am a very active person, but my wife sleeps 2 hours a night, works 22 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's like, how can you keep up with anybody like that? You know, I mean, we would go to dinner with friends, and it's like 1:30 in the morning, and you can see them starting to doze off. And she'd lean over and say to me, Bert, do you think they don't like us? I said, no, honey, they're tired. They're human. It's 1:30 in the morning, you know? And then, of course, we have all those animals together, and she personally takes care of all 50 of our dogs by herself.
Wow.
I mean,
Superwoman.
I mean, you know, I call her Wonder Woman. Okay.
Yes.
And then actually,
Boy Wonder and Wonder Woman. Yeah.
See that outfit she has on? She calls herself Robin's Girl. Right. That's Robin's Girl. And just the nicest person.
How did you guys meet?
Oh my gosh, it was
and there's our friend Roger on the right there. You can see.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Roger, dear friend Roger.
You know, it's funny. When I started with Roger, it's got to be 40 years ago. Okay,
I was one of his longest.
I was at a softball celebrity baseball game, and he was a young agent. He was a young publicist agent, and he was working for a prominent guy at the time, and they were playing, and it was wild, and a stray ball hit him in the head. Okay. And it was like, oh my God, they killed this guy. And no, he was okay. Yeah. But I mean, this was a softball, but he got really hit in the head, you know, and he'll never forget that if you bring it up to him. And anyway, but he and I've been together for like probably 40 years now. But the way I met my wife, Tracy, is that she grew up in a business family where she and her father, you know, owned thousands of companies with 200,000 employees. Anyway, and her father wanted her to do his work and not do charity work. That's one of my dogs making a little noise now, hearing me talk. And anyway, long story short, her father sent her out, said, I want you to buy this company or buy interest in this company, and because this guy's doing charity work and you want to do charity work, and I want you to work for my companies. So let him do the stuff that you want to do, and you focus on running our empire. And she said, I don't want to do that. I want to do my own stuff. And anyway, long story short, we met, we talked for 12 hours straight, 12 hours. Okay. And I'll tell you something. I tell people, if you meet me, you always want to meet me first before meeting my wife, Tracy, because if you met her before me, you would think I was a mute. I mean, she can out-talk me 10 to 1. 10 to 1, she can out-talk me, right? So you think, well, Bert never talks. So I'm always so glad when I meet people first, because once she starts, forget it. I'll never get a word in edgewise. But anyway, we fell in love. And the next day she had to fly to New York. I went to just kiss her on the cheek goodbye. She says, I'd never kiss somebody unless I was going to marry him. I mean, you talk about little Miss Goody Two-Shoes. That's like the ultimate. And her father just loved her so much, and she loved her dad. And, you know, she was groomed to run his entire empire. Anyway, She flew to New York. When she landed, I called her. I said, "You need to come back and marry me." And she said, "I know, you're right." And like 6 weeks later, after getting her stuff, of course, she did tell her dad. It's funny. She told me that when she was 3 years old, her father made her make a promise. Whatever you do in life, Tracy, don't grow up and marry an actor and move to California. Whatever you do. Well, that's exactly what she did.
And who knew that she would meet Robin from Batman?
That's right. And you know, she's like a girl wonder of herself. So we have the best time together, and we're together 24 hours a day, which, you know, most people say, how could you stand each other? Why aren't you killing each other? No, I mean, the only thing is it's always who can get the word in, you know, because we're both wanting to talk at the same time. Very
passionate, loving life, loving
Absolutely.
Your relationship, and all of it, you know, which I think is a beautiful thing. And as I mentioned too, in addition to the beloved Batman television series, which we all watched and still watch when it's on, also the theatrical feature film, the Saturday morning animated series, The New Adventures of Batman, the 2-episode pilot Legends of Superheroes, the animated reunion films, Batman Return to Caped Crusaders.
Oh, absolutely. You know,
all of Batman versus
I did 40 other feature films. I did 40 where I played everything from the Pope to a demon. You know, I mean, I had the complete gamut. And people say, well, you know, how do you feel about the fact that, you know, Robin was such a big thing compared to the other things you did, which were successful, but nothing when compared to the most successful, one of the most successful television shows in history. And I said, think of it this way. If you have a glass that's full, it can be full from doing a bunch of different things, or it can be full for doing one main thing and some smaller things. Either way, it's full. And that's the way I look at, I've been so fortunate in my life. You know,
he's been on Family Feud, Legends of the Superheroes, The New Adventures of Batman, Hollywood Squares, Living Single, High School USA, Homeboys in Outer Space, Biography, The Simpsons, TV Land's Top 10, the 4th annual TV Land, Guiding Light, the soap opera as well, SpongeBob SquarePants, Hollywood Treasure, Robot Chicken, Supergirl, Futurama, and much, much more. And of course, you guys came together for the Batman movie too, which I thought was something.
The 2 movies that we did together. And you know something, I got to tell you something. This last one was just before he died, and I want to tell you something that's really touching. It's the kind of things that really grabbed you. For whatever reason, the studio wanted us to record separately, you know, maybe just to make sure the lines were cleaner, whatever they wanted to do, you know, where there's no overlap. So I was in there. I had to do the entire movie. You go in for, it was like an hour and a half to 2 hours of recording, you know. And so I was finishing up, and then he was coming in next, and he came in to the studio area. I was in the booth, but I came out of the booth, and I saw him there, and he saw me, and he got tears in his eyes. And oh my God, did that affect me? And he said, you know, and boy, it was just so touching. And Tracy's like, oh my gosh, these 2 people, they really loved each other, you know. And it, you know, even with, you know, we had our own families and everything, but it was a special kind of, I mean, how lucky to have somebody that's your friend, a true friend, for 55 years, you know.
A long time, right? On and off screen too, and that's the rare thing, on and off screen. Which is amazing. It's and I'm sure, you know, at his funeral it was probably extraordinary and moving and touching.
Oh, you know what they did for him as an honor? What they did in Los Angeles, I met the mayor, the mayor of Los Angeles, Garcetti, and on what they did, and it was on short notice, they announced it, and in 4 days they put on where they, at night, they lit up City Hall, which downtown, I mean, is gigantic. It looks like Gotham City. And they shined the bat signal on City Hall way up in the, you know what I mean? And on the building. And there was like, I don't know, I think there was 30 some odd thousand people. And they all came within 4 days of notice at this event. And it was so touching. And I met like I said, the mayor. I met the head of the police department. The chief, and it was such a great tribute to him. It was very special. It was very, very special.
You mentioned also being an animal welfare advocate, activist, somebody who really cares about animals. Is that something, and you and Tracy, is that something you've always had a love for, even when you were a kid?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'll tell you a quick thing about my wife, Tracy. She rescued her first animal when she was 3 years old. Can you imagine? 3 years old. Her father took her to an animal shelter, and they had this infant, a baby kitten, and they said, "Oh, we don't have any room for this, and I think we're going to have to put it down." And her father said, "She'll take it." And they looked around. I mean, because she's 3 years of age, and they look around. Well, who are you talking about? My daughter, Tracy here. You mean this child? How old is your child? 3 years old. She can't take care of this kitten. He says, let me tell you something. You explain to her what she needs to do, and if I can understand it, she'll understand it. And sure enough, she rescued that kitten, and she cared for it and grew up and lived long life with her. And so when we met, we just had a natural inclination for saving lives. And I must tell you, it's not just dogs, which of course we became, the largest in the world with giant breed dogs, but we've rescued probably 350 cats. We've rescued horses from Horse Aid. We've rescued pigs, because where we live is like the last Western town in America where you can have all these farm animals. We've rescued goats and sheep. And, if you want to save a life, you save a life regardless what it is. So we have so much in common. But she can just go and just take care of these animals where, I can take care of to a certain extent, but not 50 dogs. We feed 600 pounds of our Gentle Giants food here every day. 600 pounds a day.
Wow. Good thing you own the company.
I tell you. Yeah. But,
especially, with inflation and all.
Oh, my gosh. Well, and the thing is, we take nothing from it. So everything.
That's the thing. Yeah. I want to stress that. This is really from your heart and soul, which is amazing.
Right. Well, the fact is, when you buy a food, there's only 2% available in the United States from the food supply. You pay twice the amount that you would normally pay for food. So the way we offset those costs and make our food actually even less expensive than other foods is by taking nothing from it. So that, but it's the best of the best. And give you an idea, the breeds we have here normally live only, well, if it's a Mastiff or an Irish Wolfhound, you're looking at 6 to 8 years, Great Dane, 7 to 9 years. And I think the youngest dog we have here now is 14 and a half. And the oldest, I think, is 25. And I think the other day, Tracy told me we have 5 dogs here that are over 20. I mean, wow. It's unheard of. It's unheard of, Yeah. And, but I believe it's not because we've discovered anything magical. I believe from our research that what we're doing by feeding the best food and providing the most nurturing environment, that we're allowing these dogs to live to their potential. And there's so many things in other dog foods, massive amounts of fat that are put into foods. And I tell everybody, you want to know the difference between Gentle Giants if you have a dog and what you're feeding? Go pick a few of those kibbles up, rub them in your fingers. And when you do that, put them down, rub your fingers together, you're going to feel a slightly greasy feeling. And they say, oh, yeah, that's true. I already knew that. I said, do you know what that is? That's animal fat. Would you take bacon grease and pour it down your garbage disposal? Oh, of course not. It would ruin my garbage disposal. I said, well, when you realize that animal fat will ruin a metal garbage disposal, why would you feed a dog a food that every single kibble is encapsulated in animal fat? What is happening to your dog's arteries, your dog's intestines? They go, oh, I know. Why would they do that? And you know why it's done, Jim? Because it affects the brains of dogs to make them think they're hungrier, to make them eat more food to make you buy more dog food.
And our food that we eat does the same thing, doesn't it?
Well, let me tell you a perfect example. 12 years ago, a man named Morgan Spurlock went into a McDonald's in Ohio. He ate breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack in this same McDonald's for a month. At the end of the month, he gained 55 pounds and almost died because of that high fat content, virtually no nutrition, but high fat content. And they made a movie about him called Super Size Me. A lot of people saw that movie, and it is exactly the same principle. Any living creature that eats fatty foods, not only to put the greasy fat on the outside, they fill it with fat on the inside, all for one reason: make them eat more, make you buy more dog food, which we think is unscrupulous. Anyway, that's our story. And so, we don't take any money from it, so we have no incentive to try to sell more. Our incentive is to help everybody keep their dogs longer and healthier, because these animals are so gentle, they're so loving, and they truly are man's best friend.
They really are. It's a beautiful thing the two of you are doing, heart and soul. Do you still go to the Comic Cons, conventions, all of that kind of stuff, or have you been so busy with this that you don't have time to do all of that?
Yeah, having done it, well, actually, I've done it for 50 years, of which 25 years I was doing 300 cities a year. But now Tracy and I want to do things like I told you. We want to make movies. We want to make great, exciting, fun things that kids of all ages, meaning from the oldest adult to the youngest kids, can have fun, that's wholesome, that's exciting, that's, thrilling, that where I can do more than just be the actor, but actually get involved in every aspect of it and make something that hopefully will inspire people. And in fact, I want to mention one thing about inspiring people. Through all the years of making appearances, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me when I was signing autographs, and they'll say something like, Burt, I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, and it would have been very easy for me to get involved with gangs and stuff like that. But I love Batman, and I saw what you and Adam did as Batman and Robin, and that inspired me to get into law enforcement, or inspired me to do good things. And I hear that, I go, wow, we did do something really good.
You sure did. You sure did. And it's interesting because that series appeals to all different ages too, because it's childlike but adult-like at the same time. It's very witty the way it's written.
Yeah, well, for the adults, it was the nostalgia of the comic book. For kids, it was the hero worship. I mean, what kid wouldn't want to be riding with Batman in the Batmobile, climbing walls, fighting villains? It was so much excitement. But there was an audience that was very hard to reach in the 60s, and that was the teenagers and college kids. Because at that time, no one at that age wanted to watch television. They wanted to be in their revved up car going around the outdoor restaurants on a Friday and Saturday, the drive-ins, and revving their engines and looking cool and all of that stuff. And you know how we got them to watch our show? We created what we called summer camp. Well, that was during this season reruns, summer reruns. But we took the campy style of taking something that's written serious, written funny, play it serious, and then have suggestive double meanings for that very narrow audience that other people wouldn't be offended by because they really wouldn't catch it. You understand what I'm saying? And the kids would never catch it because they were thinking of the hero worship. But the teenagers and the college kids, things that, like, for example, if in the 60s, nobody would ever tell their parent, gosh, you're right. They'd rather be put to death than say to their parent that their parent was right. Oh, my gosh, you could. So when I would say, gosh, Batman, you're right. Oh, these college kids and these, high schoolers, they're like laughing like this is, and it was the other things that where we would make these suggestive statements or this or that, or it was suggestive, but not in a never in a dirty way, but it's suggestive enough that it kind of you know, oh, wait a minute, is he saying something else? I mean, does he mean more than what the line is?
Like
that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely. And Adam was the master. Oh, there's nobody better than Adam. Let me tell you one quick scene. Third season, Batgirl in the Batmobile. We're going to leave. We had shown her the Batcave for whatever reason. I think because Batman and Robin joined up with Batgirl to fight a crime, and we wanted to show her the all the computers and stuff. Anyway, so we had to give her this bat gas so we could bring her in without her knowing what the Batcave was. And now it was time to leave. And Batman said, you know, we've got to give you this bat gas, and they spray this. And she's like, you know, out. And she's sitting in between us. And it's a very short scene. Jim, it's only supposed to be a couple lines. And Adam's in the, you know, of course, in the driver's side, and I'm in the passenger side, and Yvonne Craig is Batgirl between us. And I think my line was something like, gosh, Batman, you know, Batgirl is really very pretty. And he was to have a line that says, well, you know, Robin, I see that, you know, you're growing up, or something like that, right? Well, Adam purposely, I didn't know it at first, he fouled up 11 takes in a row. You got to understand, every time you foul up, you're running film. You got a crew that's like $30,000 every 10 minutes. I mean, you know, you got a director that's panicking now. Okay, and what did he do? And I'm saying, geez, Adam doesn't. I mean, Adam can make a mistake and he can goof up with the teleprompter, but he wouldn't make this. There's something going on here. So I finally said, all right, whatever it is, you know, I'm keep saying my line. So here it was on the 12th take. Okay. And I suspected something might come out of him that was a slightly off color, to say it nicely. All right. So I say, gosh, Batman, you know, Batgirl is really very pretty. And he said, I'm glad you noticed, Robin. It shows the oncoming thrust of manhood. Oh my, thrust of manhood. Oh my, tears are coming down my eyes. And I thought, oh, they're going to see the tears under the mask.
Now, would the crew laugh too, or would they get agitated?
They were also agitated and so angry.
Yeah.
And
so they weren't laughing. It wasn't like the Carol Burnett show where everybody was laughing.
Well, there were times when they did, but not now, because you now have stretched the elastic, as they call it, where you were at that. They're going to take anything, right? But 2 months later, when we got called into the production office and the censors were there saying, you can't say that. Well, what can't say thrust? No. Well, why can't we? There's, you know, what's wrong with it? Well, we can't tell you why it is. You know what it is. I mean, they couldn't even say why. They didn't want to say what it even implied. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just like, and it was that kind of stuff. Oh, and from then on, we went wild with that. And we would do these things and we'd get in trouble. Say, but gee, we didn't use a bad word. We just did this thing that implied something. Well, you can't imply that. Well, I never thought of that, you know. In fact, I said to one of the censors one time, I said, you know, there's an old saying, he who looks behind the door was there before.
I like that.
and so, of course, they got it mad. And then the producers say, cool it, Adam, cool it, Burt. Enough now, you know. But it all worked out, and it was fun. And for those people that now watch it later, years later, and they say, God, you know, I watched it as a kid, but now I see a whole different Batman and Robin. Yeah. I see a whole different relationship, but I only thought it was this and that, you know, that kind of thing.
Used to air in the afternoon on Channel 11, WPIX TV in New York. In the afternoon, when the kids were home from school. See, they were home from school and it was on like around 4 o'clock, which was a perfect time, just before like Gilligan's Island and then I Dream of Jeannie and all the other shows would follow after. It was appointment viewing, right? Appointment viewing.
Was, but what even was more powerful when we were on prime time, and I'll tell you why. Because this was the thing when everybody had their dinner, right? And this is when the family, one time a day, right? Because, you know, the husband's usually off at work and the wife could either be at work or taking care of the kids or doing something, right? But it's the time when the kids are home from school, the parents are home, the family has that family dinner together, And afterward, they all go down and sit in their living room, in their comfortable living room, where they watch television as a family. And Batman comes on, that, you know, and so
they
when
had their Jiffy Pop.
you know, when they would come up to Adam and I, it's like there was a love. You could feel like these people,
part of their lives.
We were in their homes. You understand? I'd have these guys come up, the big bruising guys, you know, come up and holding this little beaten up Batman and Robin lunchbox that, my God, it looked like an elephant had sat on. I mean, this thing of beaten up, and that's the most treasured thing in the world. And he wanted me to sign his lunchbox and stuff, you know? I mean,
are we missing heroes today for the kids?
Well, I think we have what would appear to be heroes, but I don't think the heroes of today are the heroes of yesterday. And I think that values, I think, you know, we live in kind of a circular world, you know, where things that come out of fashion years later come back in fashion. And I think our world has been very tumultuous. Okay. And, you know, I mean, in the 60s where we were doing our stuff, it was that period of flower children and, you know what I mean? And these concerts and free love and all of this kind of stuff, and which has gone away, but that doesn't mean it can't come back. But I think, you know, it's a pendulum, Jim, that swings back and forth, and it can swing to one extreme and eventually it swings to the other extreme, but it keeps on moving because life, you know, it's like even in the Lion King, the circle of life, you know, things are repetitive. And so I believe in the future, we will have the heroes of yesteryear, the ones that you really can be proud of, the ones, you know, that don't have a lot of human errors in them, you know, that kind of thing.
You know what was great about shows and the movies and the animated series and everything to do with things like a Batman and Spider-Man and Superman and all of those similar types of characters were they were fighting evil for good. So we were celebrating them because they were fighting for the good.
Right. And we knew what good was from bad.
Right. And now
it was
sometimes
very obvious that what the good was. I mean,
right.
The
and
villains were really villains.
Right.
And the
Exactly.
good guys were really good guys.
But now sometimes it's flipped the other way, where those who are the villains or whatever, they're elevated, and the good person is sort of tucked away as old fashioned or whatever.
Absolutely. I think that's going to change. You know, one thing it makes me laugh. I mean, we could have a scene where we're chasing these bad guys. We're out in the street and we're racing, you know, down the sidewalk, chasing these guys, bad guys, and they cross the street and I start to chase after. And he says, "No, Robin, we must observe the law. Use the crosswalk." I said, "Batman, the crosswalk is 50 feet down there. They're going to get away." That's the laws we live in. You know what I mean? Or like, or we pull up with the Batmobile and they're running. I get out and start to, "Wait, Robin, I've got to put money in the meter. That's the law." You know?
So there were like lessons built in
all the time, but they were so humorous. And it was like, you know, I mean, it is that kind of, and people just loved it. I mean, they laughed and they laughed and they laughed because, you know, and we played it so straight. We, you know, we never took ourselves seriously. You know, we were never laughing because that would have taken away from the fact that we were so serious about what we were doing. I mean, we're in the moment. I mean, we're living that. That is our world. You know.
But did you ever look at each other where you had these lines to deliver and you just lost it and broke up and were laughing hysterically?
Let me tell you when it usually happened. At about 4:30 in the afternoon, we've been shooting 7 or 8 hours. We're in these incredibly hot costumes under incredibly hot lights, and you're sweating. And between every take, they come up and they have to pat his face down. They have to blow a cold thing on the back of his neck to cool down. You know what I mean? And then Adam will say something or do something or look at me funny, and the two of us start laughing, and then we start making mistakes. Okay, and I had one director He'd come up to me. He said after 8 takes, we he would laugh, then I would laugh. Okay, and we had these 2 cats. This was a Catwoman show, and the idea was that these 2 cats, we had to put them in a relationship with each other to make a map to find out where the hideout was, right? So he turned them in a kind of a unique way, upside down, one and the other not upside down. And the point was, I started laughing, he started laughing, and I remember after about 8 takes, the director came up and says, "You got to stop it. You 2 guys are going to laugh me out of the business." and we were like, we're trying not to laugh, but you're so. Have you ever been like they were so hot and you just are almost delirious? And I'm gonna tell you, let me tell you something. Between every take, there's more makeup and more hairspray. I'm telling you, I could support a 10-pound weight on my head after with all that hairspray on by the end of the day.
Yeah,
but that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is, which I tell you. Do you have a favorite episode? I mean, it's a hard decision.
It would be hard because, well, you see, to me, the greatest accomplishment I achieved on Batman, in my opinion, was survival. I'm telling you, you just wouldn't believe the things I had to go through. I mean, as an example, they said, "Burt, after lunch, we have to have you go up on top of the sound stage." I said, "Wait a minute. How tall is that sound? 80 feet? 80 feet? I have to go up on top of that sound stage?" "Yes, but don't get upset because there's more to it." What do you mean more to it? "Well, the scene calls for you to be hung upside down over the end of the sound stage." Well, it's not a sound stage, it's a big, tall building. "And don't worry about it. We've got 2 of our strongest, stuntmen. They're going to hold you. Believe me, you know what I mean?" And like I'm fretting through lunch. Oh my God. I can't get out of it. There's no way to get out of this thing. So after lunch, I said, "Okay, Burt." I said, "Well, how do we get up there?" "Oh, just, you see those stairs there?" I said, "You mean those old rickety looking wood stairs that you can see through as you're going up higher and higher and higher?" Oh my God. And you get up there and each one you step on kind of moves. You know what I'm saying, Jim? It's a horrible feeling. So we get up on the top of the building, on top of a sound stage. And they say to me, "Burt, now come over to the edge. Here's the 2, like these 2 giant stuntmen, they're going to hold you." I said, "Wait a minute. I'm sorry. No disrespect. But if you want me to do the scene, I want to have a big, thick rope. I'm going to personally tie it to my leg, and I'm going to tie it to that piece of metal over there." They said, "Well, I don't know if we can do that. It might be seen." I said, "Let me tell you something." They said, "Look, you don't understand, Burt. They're not going to drop you." I said, "Wait a minute. We just came from lunch and we had fried chicken. Their hands are probably greasy. They're going to drop me. They're going to slip by and I'm going to fall and kill myself or worse." And they said,
or worse. Yeah.
Right. And so sure enough, I had it tied on, and the way that they held me covered up the fact that my leg was tied, and I wouldn't let them tie me. I tied myself, and I tied it to that post, and I did it in a special lock, and so I did it, but it was a horrible feeling. Can you imagine being hung upside down 80 feet in the air? They say, "Oh,
did the blood rush to your head? Did you get dizzy?"
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the worst. The most dizzy I got is in the first episode when Batman and Robin were tied onto these wheels. I don't know if you saw this. We're tied with our legs are spread, our arms are spread, and everything is tied in the wheel. And this is real. And they start motor spinning the wheel, okay? And you're up this and that, and oh my God, and it goes faster and faster. I mean, they sped up the film to make it look really horrible, but we were going around just like that speed we were going, but they had it going around like that. But I'm telling you, talk about dizzy. And, it was like I was messed up the whole rest of the day. My equilibrium was off because of spinning around and around and around. That really happened. There was always something. And it was like, how am I going to survive? What? And then I had friends who were the writers. I said, "Why are you trying to kill me?" I said, "This is so dangerous." So, well, it's got to be wild, though. It's got to be really precarious in order for it to be true Batman style.
See, you didn't need weed or any of those other things because you would be dizzy and have all these things happen to you on set.
Oh my
You
God.
didn't need any of that other. You were just
everything that could possibly
Batman.
go wrong. Oh, absolutely. But overall, it was still a lot of fun, and I had great people to work with, and Adam was great, and the fans loved it. I got to tell you something. People that we would meet, you know, it's so funny. Even years later, you meet somebody, and if you're on a TV show or something, they go, "Oh, wow, you're so and so actor," but they say, "Oh, this is Burt. Was Robin on Batman." The minute you say Batman, people get a twinkle in their eye. They get kind of a special grin, because they know that we used to say that we put on our tights to put on the world. And and that's really what we did, and people remember that kind of humor, that campy style, where you know, we could say things that you never quite, well, that could be taken very badly, but on the other hand, it could be innocent, and it was never black and white enough that we could be held in trouble for it. It was always like it could be explained away, if you know what I'm saying.
Right, exactly right.
We did it intentionally. We did it because we wanted those teenagers and college kids. We wanted their rear ends in those seats, and we had them. We had that huge, huge audience.
Now, did you have to, because you guys were, you know, fit, did you have to have a certain workout exercise plan to stay as fit? I mean, look how fit and trim you are.
I know.
Certain things you had to do.
Listen, first of all, people thought that when we climbed those walls, they turned the camera flat on the side. That's not true. It was a 45-degree angle. Now, it wasn't straight up and down, but it was a 45-degree angle. And you got to walk and climb up that thing, and you do that about 15 takes. And that's real exercise. And then some of these things that were tied down on, and you know, and it's so weird, because when you work on a project like a TV show or a movie, you know, it's not the glamour that you think it is. It's like, for example, it takes them 45 minutes, Jim, to light a scene. And you get up there and you work for 30 seconds. Then you go sit down, and it's another 45 minutes to work for 30 seconds. And people say, well, that's an easy enough. Just bring a good book. And so I tried that, and guess what? It didn't work. You know why? Because I would do my thing, and I'd go over to my chair, and I'd pull out my book, and here would come the second unit. Oh, Burt, we got to have you in makeup. You got to be a touch-up. Or Burt, got to go into wardrobe. They want you to try on this. Or that. You never had a moment's peace. And even in our dressing room, when we're trying to get dressed, right? So here I am in my underwear, pulling up my tights, knock on the door, and open the door. They didn't wait to say, you know, wait a minute, I'm getting dressed. Open the door. They just opened the door. Oh, we've got these fans here. And here's mom and dad and the two kids. And I'm standing in my tights, pulling my tights up over my underwear. Oh, my. Listen, so many embarrassing things that I don't think anything could ever embarrass me the rest of my life. I don't think anything after all the stuff that went on there.
And somehow, in some way, with all of this, it seems almost like you wouldn't change a thing. You loved it so much.
Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. Although I'd like to have maybe a little less bruises. Maybe
if the guy didn't have coffee with Adam
burns. You know, just make it a little bit more comfortable. You know, but the work with Adam. I mean, the two of us had so much fun, and honestly, I really believe that's what made that chemistry we had. It was just instant chemistry. You know, we could just look each other and both of us start laughing, because he was just a wild and crazy guy. Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? In fact, when we did this one that we did with a character called Batmite, it was for Filmation Studios. We did, I don't know how many episodes we did for that, the owner of Filmation Studios, the president of the company, was named Norman Prescott. And he came up to me one time. He says, I don't know how you work with your buddy Adam there. I said, what do you mean? I love Adam. He says, yeah. He says, but I'll tell you one thing about Adam. He says, he's the only actor he ever met that every single thing he said, every word he said, had a sexual connotation. I mean, and it was always these eye openers, like, oh my God, oh my goodness, you know, and yet he was so mischievous, and yet he knew exactly what he was, and he was just having fun. You know, I mean, it's just that he knew how he could take anybody and in 5 seconds embarrass them to death. Just whatever he said, you know what I mean? He would just say things or ask them about
like
their
it.
clothing.
And the thing is, they'd like
these,
it.
These kids, and the parents and the, you know what I mean? Like a child would wait there and get up and get his autograph. Yeah. And then he'd say, and the guy, oh, thank you so much, Batman. So what are you going to do now? Oh, I don't know, you know. I mean, he asked questions that when people didn't know what they were going to do. I mean, it was always something that was so much Adam that was, and it just tickled me. I could laugh all day long watching him do his stuff.
One of our viewers earlier asked,
he loved people too.
He loved people too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
you both do. And one of the viewers asked earlier, do you still skate?
Not very often. My skating would be more like roller skating, but even so, I would have to practice before I was even decent again. But you know, I do have the skates though. I got to tell you, I've got those skates, you know, and a little on the side of it, carved in the wood, it says Rhapsody on Ice. That was the name of my father's show. And it was great memories, you know.
Absolutely.
And, I grew up a really happy kid. You know, my parents, they weren't wealthy, but they always managed to provide me with really, you know, the best opportunity and the best, you know what I mean? I mean, not the most expensive things, but, you know, where you could live comfortably, and they encouraged me to make something of my life, you know, and yet I was never told you have to study or you have to do that. It was more like, you know, Bert, if you want to succeed, you'll do it. And if you don't want to succeed, then you don't have to. You make your own decision. And like, I started thinking about it and say, you know, I really want to do something. I want to do something important in life. And that's why, and then all through, I was very good in school at UCLA. I was placed in the top 3% of the country in math and science. When I left to do Batman, the dean got upset with me, said, you should stay here and be a nuclear physicist. You know, but whatever I did, I threw 100% of my life in it. And the same with my wife, Tracy. Anything we do, it's not 90% or 95 or 99. It is 100%. It's only 2 speeds, stop and go.
Exactly. And you have lots of love around you. You're surrounded, you know, the wonderful love for each other, but you're surrounded by so much love.
We've got cockatoos and birds and cats and dogs. You know, it's in fact, you know why they say a dog is man's best friend, Jim?
Why is that?
Because they say because a dog wags his tail instead of his tongue. You know, it just.
Now, would that be an Adam West line?
Oh yeah, but his had to be more suggestive.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
What would Burt Ward of today, with all that you've experienced and all that you've done and continue to do, really for humanity, and the animal kingdom, what would you say to this Adam, to this Burt, that is?
You mean to the young Burt, you know?
To the young version of yourself. Yeah. What would you say? Because here you look, you know, wide-eyed, curious, excited about life.
Can I tell you something? The outer shell has changed, but the inner shell is exactly the same. Nothing is any different. You know, and it's weird because there are a lot of actors, if they become successful, it either goes to their head or they, whatever. For me, I never thought of it like that. You know, in fact, even when I wore the costume and I'd see people that were like going crazy and acting like in front of the Beatles and kind of thing and all that stuff, I looked at it as, well, I'm looking through this mask, which is like watching a television set. And these people in front of me, they're like, you know, they're watching this character and I'm on the inside of the character. It's not really me. It's the character that they're looking at. So I'm just like an observer, right? Just an observer observing what's going on as these people are fawning over this, you know, costume or whatever it is. So I always thought of myself no different, you know, no different. And
see,
not,
that's
but
the
other
key.
people aren't like that. They aren't.
You were able to separate, you know, some people that get so engrossed in a character, they almost lose the sense of who they are, and they become the character throughout their entire life.
Well, see, not me. I just became it for the scene. But let me tell you something. When I was going to acting school, I was both at UCLA and the acting class, but also studying professionally. I remember one time after doing scenes, and now it's the end of the evening, and everybody's leaving, and the teacher said, "Burt, wait a minute, I want to talk to you." And I thought, oh gosh, maybe I did something wrong. You know, you wonder when you're singled out. And everybody laughed. He said, "You know, Burt," he said, "you're different than every other young actor here." I go, "Oh," she said, "I wonder if that's bad." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "All of you want the most, you know, I mean, it's your dream to be a successful actor. And every one of them, every person here, I could just see they're just living and breathing, and their desire is unbelievable to be a successful actor. And I see that you want to too, but I also see a different side. I see a person that if you didn't get it, you'd still be happy and you'd still be doing something else, and it would never bother you." I said, "You're right. And you know something? Sometimes when you try too hard, you push away the very thing you want. Whereas if you just approach it in a reasonable way and you accept the fact that sometimes you're going to succeed and sometimes you're not, okay? And you can't always control that. And you just do the best you can every day, you know? And that's the way I've lived my life. And Tracy's like that, except Tracy, she is either the luckiest person in the world or the smartest person in the world, no matter what it is. And I'll say, "Oh, no, you're not right. You can't do it. That won't work that way." And she, "Oh, yeah." And she's always right. I'm always right. It's like Batman. You know, my wife is like, she's always right. And I say, "Oh, no, that's wrong. That's not you. No, you can't do it that way. You got to do it this way." No. And, you know, and it's so funny because that's one of the things that draws us so closely together is this. It's a similar kind of thing, only it's true love and a husband-wife love as opposed to a best friend. But like Tracy's, I mean, she thinks of things before I think of them. And sometimes I'll start a sentence and she finishes it. You know, it's that kind of where you really have something really special. And the greatest thing and why I consider myself so lucky is that she treasures our marriage. You know, you can talk to somebody and, you know, you could ask them, "Oh, how do you like being married to so-and-so?" Oh, they're, you know, a great person and I love them very much. But you ask Tracy, "Oh, how do you like being married to Burt?" And she'll say something like, "I'm the luckiest girl in the world." I mean, that's almost like a Batman line. You know,
and that's without a teleprompter.
Who says things like that in today's world? And she means it, Jim. And everything is sincere.
And you feel the same way about her.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's like, I could never be, you know, I think of myself as really good and I try to do my best, but she has a level of purity that I just couldn't be, you know, I'm not, I mean, I have too many foibles. I'm just a regular human being. And she's like, I tell her she's extraterrestrial. You're not from this planet. You know what I mean?
She's from Venus, the planet of love.
Whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So
you know what's very funny? When you get animated, you hear Robin. Your voice hasn't over the decades really changed. When you're expressive, it's Robin. You hear Robin.
My last recording that when I did with Adam and I did that movie, the vice president of Warner Brother Animation came out and I was watching all these people and they're in this, you know, sound booth, and it's a big one. I mean, it's not like it's big, and my booth was pretty good size too, but I mean, it's a big studio, so it's very big. And I see them all laughing, and I'm saying to myself, why are they laughing? I mean, every one of them knows what the script is, right? Everyone knows that I played Robin. You know, in other words, why are they laughing so much? You know, I couldn't figure that out. And so afterwards I say, you know, I don't understand. You guys were all laughing there. I said, what were you laughing about? I mean, you know, and they said, let me tell you something, Burt. We're all stunned in there. I said, well, why? Why? He says, because it's been over 50 years. And when we record your voice, you sound exactly like you sounded 55 years ago.
Just like that.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You know, right,
You
that
do.
kind of a thing. And
You
you
do.
know, those mannerisms, the stuff like this, well, that was, you know, all of the stuff I did, it wasn't somebody directing me to say, oh, now you
It's
do
coming
this
from
here.
you.
It was the growing up outside for the hours every day alone, kicking that ball against the wall, living that fantasy, imagining in this thing. And then I got to live it, you know, and I had the best time. And even the directors say, you know, you look like you're really having fun out there, Burt. Well, I was, you know. And it was like,
how did you handle the success? You know, a lot of times when that amount of success or attention, the amount of attention that comes from the public, now they really want to know everything about you and read about you in magazines, know about your personal life. How did you at that early, young, impressionable age handle that and come out of it, you know, healthy, and you're still here and you didn't go down the path that unfortunately sometimes others are led down?
Oh my gosh. You know, I mean, I had one event that I went to, Adam and I went to, where they had Gilligan's Island. I mean, they had all the actors from all the popular shows that was, you know, in reruns that were airing. I mean, like, oh, it was huge. It was like one of those merchandise shows, you know, and memorabilia shows. But I mean, they had this dinner and there was at least 5 different casts from 5 different famous TV series. And, you know, I never drank my whole life. I couldn't even, I tried at 16 to taste a glass of wine. And I got violently sick, never smoked, never took drugs. Not because I'm a goody two-shoe. I never wanted to affect my mind that I couldn't be aware of things at all times. You know what I mean? And so for me, when I would see these other actors and you could see the damage years of drinking had done, or drugs, or there's smoke, and you can tell they're not feeling well. You know, it affected me, and it's like all made me even more not want to do those things, because I want to be aware, you know, of everything as it is, so I can make the best judgments and do the best things. And my wife Tracy's the same thing. I mean, she never drank, never smoked, never had drugs. I mean, any of that stuff. And you know, we if we go into a restaurant and they have a bar, we actually go sit on the other end, the farthest away from the bar. We just are just very, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's boring, but we're just very down to earth people. And all of the things and all of the stuff, it didn't affect me. I don't think of I'm the same kid that never grew up. I'm physically, you know, a lot older, but not mentally. No, you know, I'm the same. Right. I'm the same kid.
I say that we are kids in adult clothing.
Yeah, there you are.
And it's a good way to stay. What you know, you're so immersed, the two of you and Tracy, in so many beautiful things that help society and inspire and take care of wonderful things. And you're very charitable, and you're always involved in not just Gentle Giants, but a lot of other causes. What are things that you still haven't done that you still want to do? Are there a few things that you're like, I still want to write the book, or I want to do this, or I want to do that? You mentioned the shows for kids and the positive with the studio.
And
what are some other things,
stuff like that? But you know something?
What are some things Burt wants to do for Burt?
I don't think of ever myself like that. I think that we run into situations all the time where we have to help somebody or fix something or do this or do that, where, you know, I mean, like one time we went to rescue a dog from our local animal shelter, and we saw this sheep that apparently some dogs had torn all the skin off that down to the bone, and it was horrible. And the vet pulled out the big needle, gonna put the sheep to death. And I said, wait a minute, what are you doing? And she said, I have to put the sheep down. You know, there's no skin, and you know, you'd have to have months of caring for it and all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, don't do that. I'll care for it. She said, you'll care for it? Yeah. Well, how are you gonna keep the skin together? And I got talking to Tracy, and we figured out that our daughter at the time was like 12 years old, and we took some of her, she had tights, you know, that she wore when she did little ballerina stuff, she was dancing she wanted to do, and we put the tights on the sheep to hold the meat together so it grew back into the bone, you know. And we, in fact, Tracy named the sheep Bloomers, you know, because it looked like blue. And
you could have been on Little House on the Prairie.
you have to do something. This is not a choice. This is not like, oh, what am I going to do for me? I never think of that. I think, what's got to be done today? Oh, you know, this or that. And in my case, because we have so many animals, I normally don't go to bed till 4 or 5 in the morning. And then I got to be up by 9 or 10 because animals, you have 50 dogs in the house. They got to go out. They got to go to the bathroom. They got to have a drink. They got to do this. They got to do that, you know. and it's just a funny thing to tell you how life can be. Like, I'm here in what we call our production room, and it's got all these dogs everywhere, all around me, behind me. Okay, so let's say it's lunchtime and I want to have something to eat. Well, when you have dogs that are loving to you, okay, I get up and I walk to my kitchen, and you got about 15 dogs that get up, and they all crowding through a tight door, regular door, but I mean, they're all so big, right? And they follow me into the kitchen, and I'm going to make a sandwich for myself, and all of them are trying to get comfortable. There's not near enough room for them to sit down, Jim. Not near enough room. And this bends this way, and that one does this way, and finally, I make my sandwich. I'm sitting there eating my sandwich in my kitchen. And now they finally settle down, and now it's time for me to come back to work. And they all get up and follow me. I mean, it's like a different
It's like
world.
a parade.
I can't describe it. It's
all unconditional love. Yeah.
Unconditional. Yeah. I will tell you one thing I wanted to have. My wife, Tracy, absolutely said no. I wanted to have a giraffe. Okay. Now, you see, we have this big property, and we have this beautiful house, and I always envision coming down my driveway, looking over my house and seeing a giraffe walking by. Okay. Well, you know, I mean, that
was the limit for her.
Yeah. No, that's not it. And besides,
stop at the giraffe.
You know, you can't have wild animals. You can have animals you can't have a lion or a tiger, things like that. But I mean, there are people here with camels and emus and ostriches, and I mean, there's all kinds. They have 800-pound pigs. Can you imagine a pig 800 pounds? I mean, it's the biggest thing you've ever seen in your life. I mean, they have all these. This is a very animal-friendly community. Everybody loves animals. Horses have the right of way over cars. Okay, every building in our city has a commercial theme by law. You have to have a tie-up for the horse in the front. I mean, it's really like living in the Old West, and we love it here. We've been here for 30 years, but we have fun, and we live in our world, and yet we go out and we do things and stuff like that. But it's nice to come back home and have, you know, a really comfortable environment to live in, and you have so much love from these animals. Oh my gosh, everyone, they want their attention, they want their love, you know. And
do they all get along?
Oh yeah, amazingly. They groom each other. If you go to our website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com, the first thing you see is, as I said earlier, my wife and Tracy and I in bed with 50 of them. And if you watch the 11-minute video, which we slowed down to full motion, to slow motion, because if you try to watch this video at regular speed, you'll get a headache in 30 seconds because 50 dogs are moving simultaneously where you don't know where to look. You know, it's just so hard on the eyes. So we slowed it down, you know, to about half speed. But you watch these animals, not only are they loving to us, they're loving to each other. And that's part of how this nurturing environment where they feel safe, they're secure, you know. I mean, people, like, they'll say, oh, when I go out of my house to go shopping, I put the dog outside. Well, putting the dog outside, that dog knows that, you know, he is exposed to the elements, to other animals. He can be exposed to something dangerous. And people don't realize that's when the time, you know, as long as your dog is housebroken, should stay in the house, yes. You know, because they feel safer there, you know. I mean, there's so much psychology that if you ever really looked at your animals, they tell you by their eyes. You can tell when they want love. You can tell when they're worried. And one thing that my wife says to everybody who has an animal, even if you're worried about them, never show the worry to that animal. Never let, if you have, because for example, let's say your dog's health is having a problem and you're worried about it. Your dog will sense your worry, but your dog won't understand that you're worried about them. A dog thinks of things in extremes. We as humans think in shades, like it's not all good, it's not all bad. No, dog, it's good or bad or friend or foe. So if you show any emotion that you're worried in front of your animal, with cat, any animal, they will think you're in danger. And now they go into a different mode where they feel like they got to find out where the danger is and eliminate it. That is true. So we tell people, even if something's really bad with your dog and you're worried, go worry in the other room. But when you're in front of your dog, everything is fine, not to worry. We love you. And we see our dogs that live in such a nurturing, loving environment, you know, even if something was wrong, you know.
So beautiful. It really, really is. You're so committed to it in an extraordinary way. Here is that website. We've been mentioning it throughout the show, GentleGiantsDogFood.com. It's a terrific website. And again, for folks that give us, you know, a few seconds of, in case they joined us late, what is it that makes this particular food so special? I mean, they see so many different things on the shelves in the stores. It's
different from every dog food, Jim. Okay, yes. Number one, it is all natural, which there are some foods that are natural, but I mean, there's no chemicals, no preservatives, things like that. Okay, we use vitamin E as a preservative, okay? But it is non-GMO, no genetically modified organisms. And by the way, there is a new law out that people, when they go shopping at the store, you start looking at the ingredient label and you're going to see a new use of words that are telling you how dangerous things are. Okay, biohazards. Okay, that's one of the things, you know, biologically, you know, change, whatever it is. Okay, and so our food is all non-GMO. That means there were no pesticides put in the food. There was no alteration of the DNA to make it where the farmer can spray pesticides and that kills the pests, but the plant lives. But you know, and he can, you know, and he can sell his 100% of his crop. But the animal that eats the food now is eating a pesticide that's causing cancer. In fact, this video on our website on GentleGiantsDogFood.com, we have a section called non-GMO ingredients in Gentle Giants Dog Food. And this is the same with cats. We have GentleGiantsCatFood.com as well. But when you watch this video, we didn't make it. We took it from the #1 research organization in the U.S. But you have all these prominent veterinarians that they're interviewed. And here's basically what they're saying. They're saying that 15, 20, 25 years ago, they would see one dog or cat a month that had cancer. Now, in today's world, with the genetically modified foods, and unless it says non-GMO ingredients on the outside, that means they are been genetically modified, unless it says non-GMO ingredients. Very hard to get that on the outside, by the way. But what these vets are saying is that now in today's world, with 95 or 96% of our food supply, human and animal, genetically modified, okay, that every single day, 1 out of every 2 patients, dog or cats they see already has cancer. 50% every day, every dog, 1 out of every other dog or cat already has cancer. And people are just devastated by the loss of their animals. And we're not having that problem. But we do tell people one thing. If you start on the Gentle Giants food, you can't go give them some other treat or something unless on the outside of that bag it says non-GMO, because you could introduce into our food that has none of that pesticides in it. You can introduce a treat that does have a pesticide and cause cancer in your dog or your cat. And you say, oh, well, Burt couldn't have been right then because my dog got cancer. Oh, yeah, but did you fed your dog something other than non-GMO, didn't you? Or you took something from your plate. The food you eat.
A lot of people do that.
Says organic, non-GMO.
They'll do the leftovers and they'll give it to the dog.
Right. Oh, you cook something. Yeah. Oh, they'll give it to the dog. If it's not non-GMO, you can. Now, our humans, we don't get cancer as much as the animals do because our immune systems are better developed than animals. Their immune systems aren't developed as well. They're much more fragile dogs than we are, you know, intestinally, you know. So anyway, the point of it is that if you stick to making sure you feed food that has no GMOs. The other thing is I talked about the fat content. All these companies, they put massive amounts of fat into the food, and then they spray the outside and it's greasy. They say, oh, yeah, but just a little bit of grease. Oh, really? Well, think about every single kibble. How many thousands of kibbles in that bag? And every bit of it, 100 to 360 degrees of grease on there, accumulating. Where's it going? It's not coming out of your dog. It's accumulating in the arteries and accumulating in the intestine, and it's preventing the nutrients from normal food from being distributed properly. All of this stuff, those things, and then too much protein. There's studies done. You know, you say, well, why does, gee, Burt, you have 22% protein, but everybody else has 25 to 30%. Why is that? And I say, explain. Well, because studies have shown that it's somebody that goes to a store and they look up on the shelf and here's a bag that has 24% protein and one has 28% and the one in the middle has 30%. Oh, I'm going to buy that. I'm getting more bang for my buck for my dog, when that's not true at all. They do it because people believe that. But in truth, if you feed a dog more than 22% protein, you could prematurely burn their kidneys out. Nobody tells you that because they want you to buy that food. They want your dog to get hungry and hungry and hungry. We are happiest when our dogs are eating less. We designed our food. And in fact, one quick little story, we get all the time calls from people 7 or 8 months after they started feeding the food. They say, you know, Burt, maybe we'll try a different recipe because my dog, you know, maybe he's getting tired of your food. I said, no, you don't understand. We designed our food for your dog to eat less of it over time. Okay, and get all the nutrition they need. There's not, you know, not like a lack of nutrition, but less volume. And why do we do that? Because the greatest stress on an animal's body is digestion. That's the greatest stress. And what wears a dog out, and it's another thing, people, they put their dog bowls on the floor or they put them up just a little bit elevated. No. You want to elevate. Every dog has a specific height that they need to eat and drink. And you say, well, what is that height? It's so your dog comes over and tilts their head, but never lean down, never lean up. And they say, well, why do you do that? Well, just think about it. If your dog has to lean down every day to get the food and come up and chew, then lean down to get the water, come up and swallow. Look at that energy that's being wasted that could have been conserved to make your dog live longer, because it's all about conserving your energy. And people that call us often say, I don't know, I looked at your website and I saw these dogs in their 20s running around like puppies, and my dog is 8 years old and he's starting to have a hard time getting up and he's having a hard time walking. I said, well, are you feeding our food? Well, no. Are you following our feeding and care program? No. I said, well, then what do you expect? I mean, we feed our dogs, and I mean 50 dogs are fed a minimum of 5 times a day, Jim. 5 times. You say, why? Why would you do that? Because dogs' bodies can't absorb all that food at one time. It's like you or I going out to one of these buffets and eating so much, and we come home, we have to literally lie down to digest our food. Because your body is saying, hey, we're shutting everything down till this food gets digested. Okay? And so when you feed a dog only once or twice a day, which is what the world feeds dogs, okay, you're taking 5 or more years off your dog's life. You feed them smaller, more frequent meals. And the amazing thing with our food is, if your dog is overweight, and over 50% of the dogs in America are overweight because of that high fat content, but if your dog is overweight, eating Gentle Giants, they'll lose weight. And for the dog that for whatever reason is under stress and is not eating, the dog that eats Gentle Giants that's underweight will gain weight, because we have the prebiotics and the probiotics that regulate. It's like a regulator, like your thermostat on your air conditioning. You want to keep it at a certain temperature. That's the way our food works. And when you do this, you conserve energy. You make it easy on the dog. Okay. The other thing is, real quickly, there's a deadly condition that kills up to 10% of the dogs in America, Jim, every year. It's called bloat and torsion. You've heard about it, where the stomach twists. Okay. And people say, you know, what causes it? And vets will say, we don't know what causes. We only know how to treat it. Okay. You ask, if they ask a doctor, what causes anything? Nobody ever knows what causes it, but they tell you how to treat it. We know what causes it. Okay. And what that is very much like what you were told when you were a kid growing up, when mom or dad said to you, don't go in the swimming pool for 30 minutes after you eat. Remember that famous phrase? Why would they tell you that? Because they knew that if you had food on your stomach and any stress or exercise, you could get a cramp.
I still don't go in after 30 minutes.
A human, Jim, that gets a cramp from stress or eating or whatever, driving in the car, or racing around and getting a stomach ache, they can go lie down and in 30 minutes they're fine, but not a dog.
Not at
See,
all.
what happens with a dog, their stomachs are so poorly attached inside, if they have any stress, that stomach flips over. And when it flips over, everything going in and out of the stomach ceases. And that stomach immediately begins to die. And you've only got 40 to 45 minutes to get them to an expert surgeon. And your own vet, 90% of the vets can't even do the surgery. It's a major surgery. It's like, God forbid you had to have open heart surgery. You wouldn't go to your family medical doctor. You'd go to a cardiologist. You'd go to an expert, right? Well, this is the same kind of thing. They slid them from the neck to the groin. I mean, this is a major, major surgery, but it's best to avoid it. So how do you avoid it? You don't feed your dog when your dog's under stress. You don't walk your dog on a leash for at least an hour before and after eating. You don't ride in a car with a dog, again, motion, for an hour before and after eating. And you follow the things right on our website, Special Feed and Care Program. We've not had 1 out of 15,500 dogs bloat. Not 1 in 30 years. So if we can get by with not 1 in 30 years, every one of your viewers or listeners can accomplish the same thing. You just don't make those kinds of mistakes with a precious animal.
You know, it's funny because everything you just said it applies to humans too. It's so like in line with what we shouldn't do to our own bodies as well. And I had heard once that we had dogs growing up and cats, that if you have food in front of a dog and it's an endless supply, the dog will just keep eating. It doesn't really necessarily know when to stop. Have you heard that?
Absolutely, but it's not 100% correct. It is 100% correct on everybody else's food, because remember we talked about that high fat content. That confuses the dog's brain to keep eating. It's like the guy that went to the McDonald's and gained 55 pounds and almost died because the fat content in the food affected his brain to make him constantly hungry. And it does it to a dog. But when you don't have the high fat content, we teach every dog we have here self-regulates. I tell people, they say, well, I always put out just exactly a half a cup, or I do this exactly. I said, well, let me ask you a question. And I say, okay, today is, for an example, today is Thursday. Now, when you got up this morning, I asked people, I say, were you exactly as hungry this morning as you were yesterday morning? Well, maybe not. No. I said, well, what makes you think your dog is always exactly hungry? So if you feed a certain amount and only that amount, some days it might be fine. Other days your dog might be hungry. And if your dog is hungry, just like when you're hungry, it's stressful. It bothers you. Okay. And with humans, some people get headaches. They get dizzy. Well, it can happen to a dog too. So we teach our dogs, and there's a way to do it. We explain it through it. It takes a few months to do it. Every dog here only eats what he or she needs, never overeats, never gains too much weight, and they're healthy and they're perfect and they're never hungry. And one of the reasons they live longer, have you heard the famous phrase, stress kills? And if there's no stress, you're going to have a longer, healthier life.
And those words are from our hero, Robin.
I'm ready to climb the walls now.
He's ready to climb the walls. He's done it before. He is the expert wall climber, still full of passion. There's evidence of it, folks, climbing the walls. Really another fantastic conversation. Congratulations on everything. Again, the award that the Presidential Lifetime Award that you won and the award that Tracy won. Very, you're both humanitarians. as much as, of course, a television and film icon that so many people, generations, have thoroughly enjoyed on their screens, in their lives. You and Adam and everybody, all those, Cesar Romero, all those fabulous people that were on that series, Batman, and all the other incarnations of it. And to be doing what you're doing now, I think just really is a testament to who you and Tracy are, wanting to give back, wanting to help others, and to be so passionate and knowledgeable in the way that you just described some of these very important things. I think it's just the icing on the cake, my friend.
Well, Jim, think of it this way.
Yeah.
If you lived, think about this, and your listeners, think about this for a second. If you lived with 50 different dogs, sometimes more than 50, but 50 different dogs, different breeds. We have 45 different breeds here. Sometimes we have more or less breeds, but the point of it is, if you live with 50 dogs in your house, not in some other house or some yard or some building, I mean in your house, 50 dogs, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 30 years. Don't you think you'd learn something?
Doesn't he sound like Robin?
We have no way of avoiding it. We've learned all of this from hands-on experience.
Kathleen in New York City, thank you very much for this wonderful, colorful Irish green super chat. She goes, Burt, she says, this has been a fantastic show. So glad you could be with us again. Burt, you are so adorable. I will always be a fan. Thanks for all you do for animals. That is so beautiful. Thank you, Kathleen, for that very kindness.
Sweet. When you love what you do,
yes,
it's not work. It's not work when you love what you do.
And it's evident that you do. It's evident that you do. And you have a wonderful partner there who's right there with you, and you complement each other so well. Burt, a real pleasure having you back on our show. You're a great friend of our series. I said last time we would keep the porch light on for you, and we absolutely did. Come see us again anytime you have anything going on.
Thank you. I always have a great time with you. Jim, you are very perceptive, and what makes you a great person to do interviews, you listen to the people you interview. It's not like, oh, well, here's the next question and here's the next one. And when you communicate and you listen and you respond, it helps me to do a better job of talking and explaining. Not that I'm short on words, right? Oh, and if Tracy were here, boy, I'd be quiet the whole time. You say, can Burt talk? Do you think he can really talk? And she say, oh yeah, he can talk. But let me tell you another thing. And I love her for that. I mean, she is amazing. But you know, I've enjoyed it so much, and you make it great because you listen and you ask questions based on the things that are said, so it all makes sense and it flows beautifully.
I appreciate that. Really appreciate that. May have said this before, but when I was 7 years old, my father gave me the sage advice. He goes, Jimmy, because I'm the fifth James, Jimmy, always remember that when somebody says something kind or nice to you, always take the time to thank them for those words. Then ask them to please put those kind words in writing and address it management.
There you go. There you go. Right.
That's it.
There you go.
Sage advice, right? That you take with you through your life. Yeah. You're amazing. Truly, Burt. Real and honor and pleasure. I know a lot of our viewers watching around the world live. This will be archived on our YouTube channel as well, Jim Masters TV, so people can see it 24/7. Just go right to our YouTube channel. You'll see this episode there. And enjoy it. And we really appreciate all the time. Burt is always so generous with us with his time. Maureen in Arizona says, you and your beautiful wife have a special place in heaven for all you have done, continue to do for God's creatures. Bless you both. Really, really nice from Maureen as well. And everybody commenting. You're the best, my friend. Come see us again. Spread the word about our show. And congratulations truly on a continued epic career, all the beautiful things you're doing, the recent awards, the Hollywood Walk of Fame star. I mean, it's been an interesting and a beautiful ride, Burt.
Well, I agree with you. Speaking of riding, I'm going to end it with the famous phrase, "To the Batmobile."
I love it. He's going to go right. And there it is. Boom. Thank you, Burt. You be well. Say hi to Tracy for me.
I will.
And come see us again, okay?
All right. Thanks, Jim. Take care.
All right. Take care as well. Bye-bye now. The incredible Burt Ward joining us here on the Jim Masters Show. Wow. He really is a sweetheart of a guy, isn't he? He and his lovely wife, Tracy, are such givers, caretakers, and what great stories behind the scenes. Again, even though he's been with us before, he always has fresh stories about his time, you know, in Hollywood, growing up, and the things he's learned, the things that he's a lifelong learner. I mean, he's learning all the time about life, and he's so passionate about it. All of the behind the scenes, Batman, what it was like playing Robin, and, you know, how he was able to navigate that, and all the things that came with it. His wonderful friendship, deep relationship with the witty and wonderful Adam West, who, of course, played Batman, Gone Too Soon, classy guy. And again, there he is, Burt, from the beginning. And I tell you, he's really, really a great guy. And I love what he's doing with Gentle Giants. And I encourage you to go to the website, check it out. They also have one for cats as well, but this will direct you right to everything. And it's fantastic. It really, really is. You can check them out on social media as well. And again, we've had rave reviews from people that we know too, who watch our show, who have ordered these items from previous episodes of our series, and some of the feedback that we've received from the viewers, our Jim Master Show lovely viewers. And we really appreciate that. And I know Burt does, and Tracy does as well. So we thank Burt for stopping by once again here on the Jim Masters Show. We had a hero in the house returning, but you know what's great? He's Robin, right? But he's also Burt. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's the same guy in and out of the costume. And we are very, very honored to have him with us here on the show. Now, he's got 50 dogs. This is just a few, but he's got 50 dogs. Notice he emphasized that 50 and other wonderful animals, family members that are there as well. There's just a little bit of the Gentle Giants pet food, just showing you a little of the graphics there. But could you imagine? He really, those are people who really love what they do and they love animals. To have 50 and to have them jumping on the bed and being, you know, they were very quiet, weren't they? There's 50. You would figure there'd be one at least barking, or, you know, we've had guests on our show where they only have one little poodle and the poodle's going crazy the whole conversation. They just, I guess they're so used to it. They realize, you know, he's on television and in film, so they know to, Daddy's doing his thing. And then as soon as Daddy's off, walk us, feed us, love us. It's probably happening right now. He's probably being smothered with love right now. I don't doubt it. An icon in American entertainment, Burt Ward, stopping by once again, the Jim Masters Show. And we really, really appreciate all the time. Thank you for all the comments, everybody. Again, really a wonderful guest and a wonderful guy. If you missed the episode, joined us late, you can see it all archived on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. We really appreciate your watching. And don't forget to give this episode a like. There is a like, thumbs up icon on the YouTube channel. Click the thumbs up icon. That helps this episode be seen by more people around the world. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Share the link on your social media right from our YouTube channel. And do leave a comment as well. Leave a comment underneath the episode in the YouTube comments section. Let us know what you enjoyed about the conversation, where you're watching from, what you enjoy about our series. We love you all. Don't forget to take care of one another, love one another, and don't forget to love yourself and take care of yourself. It's very, very important to do that. I'm your host, Jim Masters. Thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, come see us again. Lucy Arnaz is making a return visit to the Jim Masters Show next week. And boy, do we have some incredible surprises. I don't want to tell you yet because they're big. It's a big week next week of incredible guests. So I'll just tease that Lucy Arnaz is going to be back with us, dear friend Lucy Arnaz. And then the rest of the week, more incredible guests. Burt Ward, another incredible guest. Thanks for being with us. If this was your first time here, we welcome you to the Jim Master Show Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series. Come see us again. And thanks to everybody for watching, subscribing, sharing, liking, and commenting. It means the world to us. You be well. Jim Masters here. I'll be right here waiting for you. Come see us again on the Jim Masters Show for the next one. Till then, be well and cheers.